Apple Intelligence has unfortunately failed. You see, when Apple introduced Apple Intelligence at WWDC 2024, the promise was bold. Apple Intelligence was to be this collection of powerful, intuitive, integrated, personal, and private tools that could understand context and be able to do pretty much any action you asked it for across first-party and third-party apps. So you could, for example, ask the new Siri to do this.
Siri, what's the name of the guy I had a meeting with a couple of months ago at Cafe Grinnell?
You met Zach Wingate at Cafe Grinnell.
All of this was announced by Apple back in June 2024, with a full release scheduled for September of 2024. Not only are we now in March of 2025, 6 months after the promised date, and the main Apple Intelligence feature, this contextually where Siri is still nowhere to be seen, but Apple has just made a statement that they're delaying it until, drumroll please, 2026, possibly 2 years after it was supposed to come out. In fact, according to Mark Gurman, some people within Apple's AI division claim that we won't be seeing it until iOS 20 in 2027, at the earliest. So I bet that you've got a lot of questions. 1. What's the current status of Apple Intelligence? 2. How does Apple Intelligence compare to the competition? And 3. What on earth happened inside of Apple to cause such severe delays? But you know what's not delayed? Our big Wallpapers 2.0 update. There's now an entirely new revamped search, which lets you navigate individual categories such as patterns, for example, by just tapping it. And inside, you can now see a grid view of the corresponding packs, which you can actually quickly scroll inside so that you can easily find whatever you're looking for much faster. On top of this, we've also added a trending section, which shows you the best performing packs of the past 6 months, so that you can find the packs that everyone loves the most. And below that, we have a tailored recommended section with some handpicked designs that we think you will really love. You'll also notice that the creators now have their own individual tab right here in the middle, and each of these tabs also has a subtle animation to it when you switch between them. And there's so much more that I could talk about: icons, performance, and so on. So make sure to check out Wallpapers on iOS and Android by using the links below to see the update for yourself. So let's start off with the current state of Apple Intelligence. How many of the promised features did we get, and which ones are we still waiting for? Well, in terms of the ones we got writing tools, which lets you rewrite any text to be more friendly, more professional, or more concise. This has been here from the very start, and it works pretty well, although from my experience, it is nowhere near the quality of ChatGPT, so I mostly only use it for proofreading my emails on my Mac. There's also Image Playground, which is this completely separate app that lets you create AI-generated images using some suggested prompts. This was not present in iOS 18 in September, and instead only came in December in iOS 18.2. And yeah, I think I've used it once or twice, and that was it. There's also Genmoji, which Apple has been pushing quite heavily in their billboard ads, which lets you create custom emojis. This also came later in iOS 18.2, and I think I've used it maybe 3 times in total. Then there's Visual Intelligence, which lets you find info about an object or a place by holding the camera control button or the action button if you've got an iPhone 16e. This also came in December in iOS 18.2, and whilst it does work fine, it does use Google for the results, and when you want to ask it for more info on something, it uses ChatGPT instead of Siri. So yeah, Visual Intelligence does feel more like a Google and OpenAI product than an Apple product. There's also Notification Summary, which is the Apple Intelligence feature that I use the most, although this has been quite infamous for completely butchering some news headlines. Then there's Audio Transcription in the Notes app, which I actually haven't even used once. And then there's the Photo Cleanup tool, which is there but hardly works, and even when it does, it takes forever to load. These are the main Apple Intelligence features that we've got. So which ones are we still waiting for? Well, while we do have Notification Summary, Priority Notifications, which automatically highlights the most important notifications for you, that's not available yet, and it's only coming in iOS 18.4. And then, of course, the big one, Siri's Personal Context, On-Screen Awareness, and Deeper App Integration. This is the one that's been delayed until 2026 or possibly even 2027. So really, all we got up until this point are just the smaller Apple Intelligence features, most of which didn't even come out in September, but in December instead, with the main Apple Intelligence feature that all the ads were promoting missing entirely. So yeah, things are not looking great at all for Apple Intelligence, which does beg the question, how does it fare against the competition? Well, Samsung, for example, has Galaxy AI, and unlike Apple, they did have all of their features available at launch, which was also back in January of 2024, 8 months before Apple Intelligence. And most of Samsung's Galaxy AI features are actually quite similar. Writing tools are present too and work in an almost identical fashion compared to Apple's. Now, you don't have Genmoji or Image Playground or even Notification Summary, but you do have a way more superior image eraser that just works 10 times better compared to Apple's. And you can also edit an image by just sketching an object to add, which actually works really well, or reframe the entire image with Galaxy AI generating the missing parts, something that you simply cannot do at all with Apple Intelligence. Then Google's AI is actually very similar to Samsung's, only that you do have Pixel Studios, so the equivalent of Apple's Image Playground, for generating images using custom prompts. And then on top of that, you also have the ability to describe certain edits to your photos, which lets you fully replace the sky or any other parts of the image really, with whatever you've got in mind. Apple has nothing like this. But really, the biggest AI feature that a lot of Android phones right now have is Google Gemini, which is no longer just on the Pixels. Samsung has it, Xiaomi has it, and Oppo. Yeah, pretty much all flagship Android phones have Gemini now. And Gemini is so much more advanced than Siri, it doesn't even compare. Like, I can ask Gemini to give me a list of all the ingredients that I need for a proper Italian pizza that I can then use at a grocery shop and put it in my Notes app. And there you go. It's in my Notes app. If I ask Siri the same thing, as you can see, she's just getting confused, and she needs to bring up ChatGPT to even answer the question without any option to add this into my notes at all. Plus, Gemini also comes with a Gemini Live feature, which lets you talk to it using natural language, something that Siri is literally decades behind.
Hey Gemini, I'm looking for some interesting video ideas for my YouTube channel. Can you recommend me any interesting ones? My YouTube channel is a tech channel, by the way.
Of course. To start, what kind of tech videos do you enjoy watching?
Consumer tech, phones mostly.
Got it. Consumer tech is huge, so let's narrow it down. Are you thinking about reviews, comparisons, tutorials, or something else?
I'm looking for some interesting video ideas for my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel is a tech channel, by the way, so I'm thinking that maybe you could help.
Sure thing. I can definitely help you brainstorm some video ideas for your tech channel.
Sure, Siri's contextual and on-screen awareness that Apple teased at WWDC 2024 did seem more advanced than Gemini's current capabilities. But like I said, if it's not coming out until 2026, maybe the end of it, well, Gemini is only going to get much better by then. And then there are also companies like Honor that have just teased their agentic AI, basically the equivalent of Apple's next-gen Siri that can link information across multiple apps and even do advanced processes like booking a Spanish restaurant for you at 7:30 p.m., 10 kilometers from the Barcelona Convention Center. Yeah, like very specific things like this. And guess what? All of this actually works. They've had working demos, and they're set to launch this in a few months. Whereas Apple, according to Mark Gurman, barely had any functioning prototypes at WWDC 2024. Yet, they expected to launch this 3 months after the unveil. So what on earth happened? How come Apple is literally years behind their competitors? Well, I think it's all got to do with Apple joining the AI race very late. ChatGPT was unveiled to the world in November of 2022. Gemini, known as Bard at first, launched in March of 2023. And by the time Apple showed to the world their vision of AI in June of 2024, ChatGPT and Gemini were already far more advanced. Like I said, Mark Gurman did even state that Apple barely had a working prototype in June of 2024. So I think the reason why it's taking Apple especially this long is that one, they joined the AI race quite late. Number two, they were also never an AI-focused company. And number three, Apple also cares deeply about their users' privacy. So this next-gen version of Siri that can link information across multiple apps and figure out when your mom's next flight is just based on your emails and messages with her, that is likely way harder to do if you also want to do it privately. So the fact that Apple's taking this long is understandable. Therefore, it does kind of make sense why Apple is literally using ChatGPT in the meantime as an extension to the current Siri in order to answer the more difficult questions. However, what I don't think is okay at all is Apple heavily pushing Apple Intelligence and making it seem like these features are already here or coming very soon, when in fact, they're not. The new M4 MacBook Air, for example, that was just introduced, literally had a whole Siri section on its product page, describing Siri's contextual awareness capabilities as if they were here. Apple has added a disclaimer since that these are in development and coming later, although this disclaimer was not present until just a few days ago. Same goes for people who bought the iPhone 16. Apple has been pushing Apple Intelligence ads like crazy. Even in stores, they were convincing their customers of how big of a deal Apple Intelligence is, when, as a matter of fact, the majority of its features were not even available in September at launch. And based on the current timeline, the main Apple Intelligence feature, Siri's contextual awareness capabilities, won't be available until midway through the lifecycle of the iPhone 17, or maybe even reach the iPhone 18 at this point. Look, people are mad, and tech journalists all over the web are wondering if Apple would end up firing anyone due to how bad their AI push ended up being. Personally, I don't think firing is the solution, but what I do think they should do is acquire a massive AI company like OpenAI to really speed up their AI timeline and catch up with all of their competitors. Otherwise, they will always be behind. But yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts on all of this, and if you want to check out some cool wallpaper designs, you know where to find them. I'm Daniel, this is ZONEofTECH, and I'll see you guys in the next one. ZONEofTECH, signing out. Cheers.